New today in the race for the White House, an endorsement switch from an embattled candidate to the Democratic frontrunner. A Texas congressman says he's polling his support for Julian Castro and is now supporting Joe Biden. Representative Vicente Gonzalez says, quote, "At this point in time, we need to narrow the field and unite as Democrats to defeat Trump." And that's why he is moving his support to Vice President Biden. Now, Castro's campaign spokesman responded saying, quote, "Congressman Gonzalez is entitled to endorse whichever candidate he feels represents his values. Secretary Castro will continue to fight for a better future for all Americans, including a health care system that ensures all Americans have access to quality coverage." Well, joining me now is former White House Deputy Staff Secretary David Goodfriend, who worked under President Clinton, and Adam Goodman, Republican media strategist and Tampa Bay Times columnist. Thank you both for being here. Let's start with you, David. Congressman Gonzalez stresses the need to narrow the field. So could this endorsement switch be a sign of more endorsements to come for Biden?
Well, it could be, but I also think it's a reflection on how Secretary Castro handled the debate. He was, I think, to be generous, a little clumsy in his desire to differentiate himself by attacking Vice President Biden. I think that Mayor Pete jumping right in saying this is why people are sick of politics immediately took the air out of the room for Castro. And I think what we're seeing here is there is a way to attack the front runner without alienating yourself from the Democratic base. It's a delicate dance, but I don't think Secretary Castro actually helps himself in that debate. You'll notice that all the other candidates went out of their way to sort of be polite to each other, and his attacks were sort of ad hominem and a little bit stuck out a little bit, I thought. Well, whoever the nominee is going to have to go up against Donald Trump, who's not exactly polite on the debate stage. So there's going to come a time where the Democratic field narrows and pivots to more harsh attacks. I just think Mr. Castro, in this case, sort of jumped the gun and did so in a way that was inelegant.
That's an interesting point. Adam, what do you think? Do you think that this was a rebuke to Castro's performance at the debate as well?
Well, obviously, Julian Castro is looking for a breakout moment. And I think he ended up further breaking apart a campaign that seems to be going south, not north. But there was a bigger issue that's in play here. The real-time reaction to Castro's attack was, a lot of people said that was wrong, it was nasty, we feel sorry for Joe Biden. But the residual impact of his attack and the attacks that have come at the Vice President Kamala Harris and Gillibrand and others is really this point. Is the Vice President, is Joe Biden still sharp enough, still there enough to be able to go toe-to-toe with the President of the United States in the fall of 2020? And that has a residual kind of long tail effect about questioning whether or not Joe Biden is going to be a front runner that can stand the test of this race to come. And I can tell you that he, in terms of generating the one thing he needs to generate, Joe Biden, which is passion, which is to create a sense of movement and everyone coming out of their seats and saying, we believe again. I think he's got his work cut out for him. And that's a big problem for the vice president when it comes to the first 3 contests next year, 2 of which are caucuses. And I think if you don't have a passionate base behind you, you're going to find yourself like Jeb Bush did in 2016, like Hillary Clinton did in 2008, going backwards, not forwards.
But Joe Biden did release a passionate speech today. And David, do you think that speech today will help soothe criticism about Biden's comments at the debate when asked about the legacy of slavery?
Well, I think today's speech was eloquent, but I think it underscores a truth about the Biden campaign, which is as long as he can maintain a sizable lead across all age groups in the African-American community, then some of the early states where that vote is absolutely crucial will really help him. The minute that starts to erode, he's in trouble. And I think it's really imperative that Elizabeth Warren, for example, or Bernie Sanders, for example, if they want to make inroads with that, they have to show equal passion and equal focus on that vote, and it's critical to this nomination. Now, I just want to go back to something my Republican friend said, and I actually agree with him. I know it's not fashionable for us Democrats to agree with Republicans these days, but what he said was very true, which is Bill Clinton, my boss, used to say, Republicans fall in line and Democrats fall in love, or at least want to fall in love. And if you look at the presidential fields from past elections, the insider establishment candidate in modern elections has not won. I'm thinking about Hillary Clinton, John Kerry, even Michael Dukakis could fall in that category. But the outsider who's agitating to move the party in a different direction has won. Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter, they all fit that category. So it doesn't really fit with history to assume that the former vice president, who is really the establishment candidate, is going to carry the day. That's really not when Democrats have been at their best. However, Joe Biden is in the lead, indisputably, and it really falls to the next tier of candidates to try to go after those key elements of support, including the African-American vote.
Adam, give us a response before we go. You know, there are a lot of polls showing that Biden, Sanders, Warren, Harris, Buttigieg recently were all picked over Trump in a general election. You know, this is actually ABC News and Washington Post. Do you think this indicates that President Trump has a reason to be worried?
Oh, I think it's going to be a very competitive campaign next year. But to build on what we just heard, I really advise everyone who watches the polls very carefully. The first and only poll that really is going to count in the race for the Democratic nominee to take on Donald Trump is going to be in the cold of winter in Iowa, a caucus state. And if you don't get your supporters really passionate enough to come out and vote, all the national polls will be turned on their head very, very quickly. And I think that's the biggest concern that the front runner in this particular race must have tonight.
We've certainly seen it in the past. David Goodfriend and Adam Goodman, thank you both for joining us and giving us the last word.
Thank you.
Thank you.